What if you discovered that the name you've been calling your daughter for 3 years was never her real name? What if your own mother-in-law secretly changed it on the birth certificate the day she was born, and your husband knew everything? They let me call her by the wrong name for 1,095 days. They smiled, took photos, and celebrated every birthday while lying to my face. When I finally found out, I didn't scream. I smiled back, and then I made sure they would never forget the day they tried to steal my daughter's identity from me. My name is Sophia Bennett. I'm 29 years old. I live in a beautiful townhouse in Vancouver, Canada. I work as a pediatric nurse at BC Children's Hospital. My husband, Ethan, is 31 and works in finance downtown. We've been married for 5 years. Our daughter, the light of my life, is 3 years old. Or at least, that's what I believed until 2 weeks ago. We named her Amelia Grace Bennett. I chose Amelia because it was my grandmother's name. Grace was Ethan's suggestion. He said it sounded elegant and gentle, just like our baby. The day she was born, March 12th, 2023, was the happiest day of my life. Ethan was in the delivery room, crying when they placed her on my chest. His mother, Margaret, my mother-in-law, was waiting outside, pacing anxiously. Margaret had always been intense. She was the kind of woman who believed she knew better than everyone else, especially when it came to her son's family. She had strong opinions about everything. How I should give birth, how I should breastfeed, what names were proper. But I was so exhausted and happy that day, I brushed off her little comments. The next morning, while I was still recovering, Ethan brought the birth certificate paperwork for me to sign. I was groggy from pain medication. I remember him saying, "Just sign here, babe. I'll handle the rest." I trusted him completely. Why wouldn't I? 3 years passed. Amelia grew into the most beautiful, strong-willed little girl. She had my eyes and Ethan's smile. She called me Mama and Ethan Dada. Margaret visited often, sometimes too often, bringing gifts and insisting on helping with bedtime routines. She always called my daughter my sweet little Ellie. I thought it was just a cute nickname. I was wrong. 2 weeks ago, I was cleaning out our home office when I found a small locked box in the bottom drawer of Ethan's desk. The key was hidden under some old paperwork. Curiosity got the better of me. Inside the box were official documents. The original birth certificate. My hand started shaking the moment I saw it. Name of child, Eleanor Margaret Bennett. Not Amelia, Eleanor Margaret. I stared at the paper until the letters blurred. My daughter's legal name, the name on her birth certificate, on her health card, on her passport that we applied for last year, was Eleanor Margaret Bennett, not Amelia Grace. Margaret had changed it, and Ethan had signed it with her. I sat on the floor of the office surrounded by papers, heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I read the date on the certificate, March 13th, 2023, the day after she was born. They had done it while I was still in the hospital recovering from a difficult C-section. I didn't cry at first. I just felt a cold, terrifying rage building in my chest. That night, when Ethan came home, I waited until Eleanor was asleep. I placed the original birth certificate on the kitchen table. Ethan froze when he saw it. His face went white. "Sophia, let me explain." "Explain." My voice was dangerously quiet. "You let me call our daughter by the wrong name for 3 years. You and your mother changed her legal name behind my back. You lied to me every single day. How do you explain that?" He started crying. Real tears. Mom said Amelia sounded too common. She said Eleanor was a family name, stronger, more elegant. She convinced me it would be better for her future. I was scared to fight with her right after you gave birth. I thought it was a small thing. I didn't want to stress you out. A small thing. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You stole my right to name my own child. You let your mother brand my daughter with her own name. And you hid it from me for 3 years. He tried to reach for me. I stepped back. "Sophia, please." Mom only wanted what was best. Best for who? I cut him off. For you? For her? Because it sure as hell wasn't best for me or for our daughter. That was the night everything shattered. Margaret showed up the next morning, uninvited, with that sweet, poisonous smile she always wore when she wanted to manipulate someone. "Sophia, darling," Ethan told me there was a little misunderstanding about the name. "It's just a name, sweetheart. Eleanor is a beautiful, classic name. Amelia is so ordinary. I only wanted the best for my granddaughter. I looked at this woman who had once called me daughter and felt nothing but ice. You forged my daughter's identity. You went behind my back while I was recovering from major surgery. You made my husband lie to me for 3 years. And you have the audacity to call it a little misunderstanding. Margaret's smile faltered for the first time. I am her grandmother. I have rights too. No, I said, voice steady. You have privileges, and you just lost every single one of them. I told her she was no longer welcome in our home. She cried. She threatened. She called me ungrateful and said I was destroying the family. Ethan stood there silently, torn between his mother and his wife. That night, after Margaret left, I sat beside my sleeping daughter's bed and whispered her real name for the first time in 3 years. Amelia, my sweet Amelia Grace. Tears finally came, because the worst part wasn't just that they changed her name. It was that they had been calling her Eleanor in secret the entire time. Every time Margaret said, "My little Ellie," she wasn't using a nickname. She was using the legal name she had stolen from me. I started digging deeper the next day. I found old text messages between Ethan and Margaret from the hospital. Margaret had written, "Sign it as Eleanor Margaret. Tell Sophia it's already done. She's too tired to argue. We'll fix it later if she makes a fuss." They never planned to fix it. They planned to make me accept it. The more I uncovered, the colder my anger became. This wasn't just about a name. This was about control. This was about Margaret deciding that even my daughter belonged more to her than to me. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I started planning. Because if they thought they could steal my daughter's identity and get away with it, they were about to learn how wrong they were. And the revenge I was preparing wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be quiet, legal, and absolutely devastating. The silence in the house after I confronted Ethan and Margaret was heavier than any scream could ever be. For the first 3 days, Ethan walked around like a ghost. Eyes red, shoulders slumped, barely speaking. He slept in the guest room without me asking. Every time he looked at our daughter, I saw the guilt eating him alive. He kept calling her Amelia, now, overcorrecting, like saying the right name could somehow undo 3 years of lies. But it couldn't. I started sleeping with the original birth certificate under my pillow. Not because I was afraid they would take it, but because I needed to feel its weight. A physical reminder that my daughter's identity had been stolen from me while I was still bleeding from surgery. On the 4th day, Margaret showed up again. This time she didn't knock. She used the spare key Ethan had stupidly never taken back from her. I was in the kitchen making breakfast for Amelia when I heard the front door open. Margaret walked in carrying a tray of fresh cinnamon rolls. Her classic, "I'm sorry, but I'm still right" peace offering. "Sophia, we need to talk like adults," she said, voice sugary sweet. "This has gone too far. Changing a name is not identity theft. It's a family decision. Eleanor is a strong, beautiful name. Amelia is cute, but common. I only wanted the best for my granddaughter." I turned off the stove slowly. Amelia was sitting in her high chair, happily eating cut-up strawberries, completely unaware that her entire world was cracking. I looked at Margaret and spoke with a calmness that scared even me. "You forged legal documents behind my back. You manipulated my exhausted, medicated husband into signing them. You let me call my own child by the wrong name for 3 years while you secretly called her Eleanor. And now you're standing in my kitchen telling me it was for her own good?" Margaret's smile faltered, but she doubled down. "You were in no condition to make decisions after the C-section. I was only helping." Ethan agreed with me. "We're a family. We make decisions together." That was the moment something inside me snapped cleanly in two. I picked up my phone, opened the voice recording app, and hit record openly in front of her. "Say that again, Margaret. Tell me exactly how you helped by changing my daughter's legal name without my consent." She froze. Ethan walked into the kitchen at that exact moment and saw the phone in my hand. His face went pale. "Sophia, please don't." "Don't what?" I cut him off, voice ice cold. "Don't record the truth? Don't let your mother admit out loud what she did? Or don't expose the fact that you were too weak to stand up to her even when it meant lying to your own wife for 3 years. Amelia looked up from her strawberries, sensing the tension. "Mama, why you mad?" I forced a gentle smile for her. "Mama's not mad at you, sweetheart. Go play with your toys for a minute, okay?" As soon as Amelia toddled out of the kitchen, I turned back to both of them. Here's what's going to happen. I am changing her name back to Amelia Grace Bennett legally. I will be doing it alone. You will not be involved. You will not attend the court hearing. You will not speak to the lawyer. If either of you try to interfere, I will file for full custody and use every single piece of evidence I have, including the texts where you bragged about doing this behind my back. Margaret's face twisted with rage. You wouldn't dare. I'm her grandmother. I have rights. You had privileges, I said quietly, and you just lost every last one of them. Ethan finally spoke, voice cracking. Sophia, she's my mother. We can't cut her out completely. Amelia loves her. I looked at the man I had married, the man I once believed would always protect me and our child. Then you have a choice to make, Ethan. Your mother or your family. Because right now you can't have both. The next 2 weeks were war. Margaret launched a full-scale campaign. She called my parents, my siblings, our mutual friends. She told them I was having a postpartum meltdown, even though our daughter was already 3. She posted vague Facebook updates about toxic daughters-in-law who destroy families over nothing. She even showed up at my workplace with flowers and tears, telling my colleagues how worried she was about my mental state. Ethan was caught in the middle, paralyzed by guilt and fear of losing his mother. I did none of that. I stayed quiet. I stayed dignified. I hired the best family lawyer in Vancouver, a woman named Rebecca Lang, who specialized in high-conflict custody and name change cases. I gave her everything. The original birth certificate, the texts, the voice recordings I had started making the moment I found the document. Rebecca's first words after reviewing the file were, "This is one of the most blatant cases of emotional and legal manipulation I've seen. We're not just changing the name back. We're going to make sure Margaret never has unsupervised access to your daughter again unless you allow it." While the legal process moved forward, the emotional toll became brutal. Amelia started asking why Nana wasn't coming over anymore. She cried for her one night, and I held her while my own heart broke. I had to explain in 3-year-old terms that Nana had done something that hurt Mommy very badly, and we needed some time apart. Ethan moved into the guest room permanently. Every night I lay awake thinking about all the moments I had innocently called my daughter Amelia, while Margaret was secretly calling her Eleanor behind my back. All the birthday cakes with the wrong name. All the medical forms. All the passport application where I proudly wrote Amelia Grace. The betrayal ran so deep I sometimes couldn't breathe, but I refused to break in front of them. Instead, I became strategic. I started documenting every single interaction, every guilt-trip text from Margaret, every time Ethan tried to defend her, every time she tried to see Amelia without my permission. I also began the official name change process. The court required a hearing. Margaret tried to file an objection, claiming grandparental rights. Rebecca destroyed that argument in one filing. The hearing was scheduled for early next month. The night before the hearing, Ethan came to me in the living room after Amelia was asleep. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Sophia, my mom is devastated. She's not eating. She keeps saying she only wanted to honor the family name. Can we please find a compromise? Maybe Amelia Eleanor as a double name." I looked at him for a long time. Then I said the words I had been holding back for weeks. "Ethan, the day your mother changed our daughter's name without my consent, she declared war on me as a mother. The day you helped her hide it for 3 years, you chose her over me and over our child. There is no compromise. There is only consequence." He started crying. "I'm so sorry. I was weak. I didn't want to lose my mom. You already lost something much more important," I whispered. "You lost my trust. And right now, I'm not sure you'll ever get it back." The next morning, I walked into the courtroom alone. Margaret was there with her own lawyer, dressed in black like she was attending a funeral. Ethan sat behind her, looking miserable. The judge listened to both sides. Rebecca presented the evidence calmly and powerfully. The forged documents, the texts, the timeline, the psychological impact on both me and the child. When it was Margaret's turn, she cried and called me controlling and vindictive. The judge didn't look impressed. After 40 minutes, he made his ruling. The name will be legally changed back to Amelia Grace Bennett. The mother has sole decision-making authority regarding the child's legal name. The grandmother is granted supervised visitation only once per month for a trial period of 6 months. to be supervised by a neutral third party. Any further attempts to interfere with the name change or undermine the mother will result in complete termination of contact. Margaret looked like she had been slapped. Ethan looked destroyed. I walked out of that courtroom with my head high, even though my legs were shaking. That night, I sat on the floor of Amelia's room while she slept peacefully in her bed. I brushed a strand of hair from her face and whispered her true name for the 100th time. Amelia Grace, you are my daughter. Your name is yours. No one will ever take that from you again. Tears fell silently down my cheeks. Because the fight wasn't over. Margaret and Ethan were already regrouping. And I knew the real war, the one for my daughter's heart and future, was only just beginning. But this time, I wasn't the naive, trusting wife anymore. I was a mother who had been pushed too far. And I was ready to burn down anything that tried to hurt my child. The weeks after the court hearing felt like walking through a minefield blindfolded. Every morning I woke up and had to remind myself that my daughter's name was finally hers again. Amelia Grace Bennett. I repeated it like a prayer while brushing her hair, while making her breakfast, while reading her bedtime stories. Each time I said it correctly, a small piece of my heart healed, but the wound was still raw, still bleeding underneath. Amelia, being only 3, didn't fully understand what was happening. She kept asking, "Where's Nana? Why Nana no come play?" How do you explain to a toddler that her grandmother tried to steal her name? That the woman who sang her lullabies and baked her cookies had secretly tried to rewrite who she was? I told her the simplest truth I could. Nana did something that hurt Mommy very much. We need some time away from Nana, so Mommy can feel better. She would nod solemnly, then ask again the next day. Ethan was living like a stranger in his own home. He went to work early, came back late, and spent most evenings in the guest room. When he did interact with Amelia, I could see him struggling, forcing himself to say Amelia instead of the name he had used for 3 years. Every time he stumbled, guilt flashed across his face. One night, after Amelia was asleep, he came to me in the living room. His eyes were hollow. "Sophia, I can't do this anymore. I miss my mom. She's falling apart. She calls me every day crying, saying she's lost her only granddaughter. Can we please allow supervised visits? Just once." I looked at the man I once vowed to spend my life with and felt a strange mix of pity and disgust. "You still don't get it, do you?" My voice was quiet but shaking with emotion. "This isn't about you missing your mother. This is about the fact that your mother violated me as a mother in the most intimate way possible. She reached into my womb, into the most vulnerable moment of my life, and tried to claim ownership of my child. And you helped her. You chose her comfort over my rights, over our daughter's identity." Tears welled in his eyes. I was weak. I know that now, but she's still my mother. I can't just cut her out completely. It's killing me. "Good," I said coldly. "Maybe you need to feel a fraction of what I felt when I discovered the birth certificate." He broke down then, ugly, shoulder-shaking sobs. He begged me to forgive him, to go to couples counseling, to find a way to heal our family. I didn't comfort him. Instead, I said the hardest words I had ever spoken. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Ethan. Every time I look at you, I see the man who signed away our daughter's name while I was still recovering from surgery. I see the man who let his mother brand my child. Right now, I'm not sure I even want to be married to you anymore." The next morning, Ethan moved out temporarily to stay with a friend. The house felt both empty and lighter at the same time. Margaret didn't stop. She started a whisper campaign among our extended family and friends. She told them I was an unstable, vengeful mother who was using the name change as an excuse to alienate her from her granddaughter. She sent long emotional emails to my own parents, painting herself as a victim of a cruel daughter-in-law. My mother called me in tears one afternoon. "Sophia, Margaret says you're keeping Amelia away from her because of a silly name dispute. Is that true?" That poor woman is devastated. I had to explain everything to my own family, the secret name change, the lies, the court hearing. By the end of the call, my mother was furious on my behalf. The emotional toll was exhausting. Some nights I would sit on the floor of Amelia's room after she fell asleep and cry silently. I grieved the innocent version of myself who had trusted her husband and mother-in-law completely. I grieved the 3 years of memories that now felt tainted. I grieved the fact that my daughter would one day learn that her grandmother had tried to erase the name I chose for her. but grief slowly turned into steel. I started seeing a therapist specializing in betrayal trauma and maternal identity. She helped me understand that what Margaret did wasn't just about a name. It was a profound violation of my autonomy as a mother. It was an attempt to insert herself into the most sacred bond between me and my child. 2 months after the court ruling, the supervised visitation trial began. The first visit was supervised by a court-appointed social worker at a neutral family center. I waited in the observation room with a knot in my stomach as Margaret entered the playroom. Amelia ran to her immediately, shouting "Nana" with pure joy. My heart shattered. I watched through the one-way glass as Margaret hugged my daughter tightly, tears streaming down her face. She kept calling her, "My sweet Ellie," despite the court order. The social worker had to correct her twice. After the visit, the social worker pulled me aside. "Your mother-in-law is struggling with boundaries. She repeatedly used the prohibited name and tried to undermine your authority by telling Amelia that Mommy is being silly about names. I'm recommending we continue supervision and possibly limit visits further." I nodded, but inside I was breaking. That night, after putting Amelia to bed, I sat on the couch with a glass of wine and let myself feel everything I had been holding back. The rage, the betrayal, the deep, aching fear that my daughter might one day love Margaret more than she loved me. I cried until there were no tears left. Then I made a decision. I would not let Margaret turn me into a bitter, angry mother. I would protect my daughter fiercely, but I would also protect my own heart. I would not let this define the rest of my life. The final supervised visit happened 3 weeks later. Margaret arrived looking thinner, older, and desperate. She brought gifts and tried to play the perfect grandmother. But Amelia, even at 3.5, was starting to sense the tension. When Margaret again slipped and called her "Ellie," Amelia corrected her in her small voice. "My name is Amelia, Nana. Mama says so." Margaret looked like she had been stabbed. After the visit, the social worker recommended terminating unsupervised contact indefinitely and requiring Margaret to complete a parenting course focused on boundaries and respect. Margaret finally broke. She called me that evening, voice hoarse from crying. "Sophia, please. I'm begging you. She's my only granddaughter. I made a terrible mistake. I thought I was doing what was best for the family. I see now how wrong I was. Please don't take her away from me completely." I listened to her sob for a long time. When she finally went quiet, I spoke softly but firmly. "You didn't just make a mistake, Margaret. You violated me in the most sacred role I have, being a mother. You tried to rewrite my daughter's identity to suit your ego. That kind of wound doesn't heal with a simple apology. I will allow very limited, supervised contact for now. But you will never again have the power to make decisions about my child. Never." She cried harder. "I'm so sorry. I love her so much." "I know you do," I said. "But love without respect is just possession." I hung up. That night, I held Amelia a little tighter as I read her bedtime story. She fell asleep with her small hand wrapped around my finger. As I watched her peaceful face, I realized something profound. The name wasn't just letters on a piece of paper. It was my declaration to the world. This child is mine. I carried her. I named her. I will protect her. And no one, not my husband, not my mother-in-law, not anyone, would ever take that power from me again. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, I wasn't fighting from a place of fear. I was fighting from a place of fierce, unbreakable love, and that made all the difference. The months that followed the court's final decision felt like slowly waking up from a long, painful nightmare. Margaret was granted one supervised visit every 8 weeks, no more. The social worker's reports were consistent. Margaret struggled to call my daughter Amelia. She kept slipping into Ellie, or my little Eleanor, as if the old name was a habit she refused to break. Each time it happened, the visit was cut short. Ethan and I were living in the same house, but in different worlds. He tried everything to repair what he had broken. He went to individual therapy twice a week. He started helping more around the house without being asked. He even took Amelia to the park every Saturday morning, so I could have time for myself. But every kind gesture felt heavy with guilt. I could see it in his eyes, the constant fear that I would wake up one day and decide I no longer wanted him in our lives. I was honest with him. "I don't hate you, Ethan, but I don't trust you either. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Right now, I'm focusing on being the mother Amelia deserves. Everything else we'll see." He accepted it with quiet sadness. The real healing, surprisingly, came from the smallest moments with my daughter. One evening in early December, as I was giving Amelia a bath, she looked up at me with her big, curious eyes and asked, "Mama, why Nana always called me Ellie before? Is that my secret name?" My heart clenched. I sat on the edge of the bathtub and chose my words carefully. "No, sweetheart, your name is Amelia Grace. That's the name Mama chose for you the day you were born. Nana wanted to call you something different, but she didn't ask Mama first. That wasn't okay. So now we're using your real name, the one that belongs to you." Amelia thought about it for a moment, then nodded seriously. "I like Amelia better. It sounds like me." Tears stung my eyes. I kissed her wet forehead and whispered, "It does sound like you. Because it is you." That simple conversation became a turning point for me. I realized I had been carrying so much anger and grief that I almost forgot the most important thing. My daughter was safe, loved, and growing up with her true name. The damage Margaret tried to do had been stopped before it could take root in Amelia's heart. Christmas came quietly that year. We didn't do a big family gathering. Instead, we had a small celebration at home. Just the three of us, my parents and my sister. Margaret was not invited. Ethan didn't argue. He spent the day helping me in the kitchen, playing with Amelia, and trying to be present without pushing for more than I could give. On Christmas Eve, after Amelia had fallen asleep surrounded by new toys, Ethan and I sat by the fireplace with a glass of wine. He spoke first, voice thick with emotion. "I've been thinking a lot about what kind of father and husband I want to be. I failed you both when it mattered most. I chose the easy path because I was scared of disappointing my mom. I will never do that again. If you decide you want a divorce, I won't fight you. I'll make sure you and Amelia are taken care of. But if there's even a small chance we can rebuild, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Therapy, boundaries, time, anything." I looked at the fire for a long time before answering. "I don't know if we can go back to the way we were. That version of us died the day I found the birth certificate. But maybe we can build something new. Slower, more honest, with real boundaries. Margaret will never have the same access to our daughter again. That's non-negotiable. And I need time to trust you again. Real time." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I understand. Thank you for not shutting the door completely." Spring arrived with new beginnings. Amelia turned 4 in March. We threw her a small birthday party at the park, just close friends and my family. She wore a pink dress and blew out her candles with pure joy. When everyone sang, "Happy birthday, dear Amelia," I felt a wave of peace wash over me. Margaret sent a gift through Ethan, a beautiful doll and a card that simply said, "I love you, my granddaughter." I let Amelia keep the doll, but I kept the card. It was a small step toward controlled contact, but I still held the power. One warm afternoon in May, I was sitting in the backyard watching Amelia play in her sandbox when Ethan joined me with 2 cups of coffee. He handed me mine and said quietly, "I told my mom yesterday that if she ever tries to undermine you again, or calls Amelia by the wrong name, even once, the supervised visits stop permanently." She cried, but she agreed. I think she finally understands how close she came to losing everything. I took a sip of coffee and nodded. Good, because I meant every word I said in court. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching our daughter laugh as she built sandcastles. Then Ethan said something that surprised me. "I'm proud of you, Sophia. You fought for our daughter when I was too weak to do it. You protected her name, her identity, her right to be who she is. I'm learning from you what it really means to be a parent." For the first time in over a year, I felt a small, genuine warmth toward him. Healing wasn't linear. Some days I still felt the old anger flare up. Some nights I still woke up remembering the moment I found the birth certificate. But slowly, day by day, the weight was lifting. I started smiling more. I laughed freely again. I began to dream about the future instead of being trapped in the past. And most importantly, I watched my daughter grow up knowing exactly who she was. Amelia Grace Bennett. My daughter. My choice. My victory. One quiet evening in late June, as the sun was setting and painting the sky in soft pinks and oranges, Amelia climbed into my lap on the porch swing. "Mama," she said, resting her head on my chest. "I'm happy we're us." I held her close, breathing in the sweet smell of her hair, and whispered, So am I, baby. So am I. In that moment, I realized the deepest truth of all. Margaret had tried to steal my daughter's name. But in the end, she only succeeded in teaching me how fiercely I could love and protect what was mine. And that kind of love, it was stronger than any lie, stronger than any manipulation, stronger than fear. It was the kind of love that rebuilds families, not the old broken ones, but new, honest, boundary-filled ones. My name is Sophia Bennett. I am 30 years old. I am a mother who fought for her child's identity and won. I am a wife who is learning to trust again, slowly. And I am a woman who discovered that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying someone else. It's becoming the strongest, most authentic version of yourself, the version no one can ever take away from you.